Welcome back on the show, Mary Paulus. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fairly well, surviving Christmas,
Surviving.
surviving surviving the holidays.
What does that mean? How have things been over in Portland?
Most people look forward to it, you know. I all the commercialism is just it gets to be about enough, you know. It's supposed to
Mm.
be like this season of peace, right? Doves and whatever, and it's like people have road rage. There's like so much traffic. Everyone wants to get to get to the sales, get the last minute shopping done, and everyone's like rushing around in a rage instead of like actually being peaceful and calm, you know. So it's I'm kind of over it, but we still got a ways to go till New Year's. We got a few days, so
Yeah, you're right. I don't think Christmas is that peaceful a time of the year. I've been back home with family and things just felt kind of hectic and a bit stressful there. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely love spending time with my family and it was great for the first few days, but the amount of obsession around like always making sure everyone's being fed and it comes from a good place, but it is very obsessive. And then, as I was saying to you, always having like the TV on, there's always some
yeah,
stimulation. Everything seems just quite fast, and it's like there's this compulsive desire to ensure everyone is so happy like all of the time. And I think that in itself can create almost like some anxiety and the pressure. It's like you feel like you have to be happy all of the time. And I
yeah,
had a good time, but after a few days, I just went, all right, I need some space now. And I had to I didn't have to. I could have stayed there with my family,
yeah,
like at home, but I'd been there like four nights, I think, and
yeah,
decided, I'm just gonna go back to my flat, get back on top of just my lifestyle really. Like I enjoy doing this work, I enjoy talking to clients, I enjoy just cooking my own meals, having my independence, hitting the
yeah.
gym, going for walks and just having a bit of space to myself. Whereas back in Sheffield where I was with my family, it was a really really good time, but I did just get a bit sick of that constant kind of stuff going
Consumption.
on. Yeah, constant consumption as well. I mean, the amount of times like there was food out and I was just being offered stuff all the time and very, very grateful for it all. And I appreciate not everyone has those luxuries and I've got so much to be grateful for. But at the same time, it's just a bit sickening after a while, to be truly honest, it
Yeah.
is. And other people just
Well,
live a different way, I feel. So yeah.
by contrast, so my son shows up Christmas Eve, I guess it was, and I'm like, was it Christmas Eve? I think so. I'm like, there's no food in the house. I'm like, I've got cream and coffee, so we got that covered. But I'm like, I have no food, so we went over to the store and just bought some essentials, and then we have sort of a tradition where we get Indian food
Hmm.
for Christmas Eve, because the Indian restaurants aren't celebrating, obviously, and so they stay open. So we got takeout Indian aloo gobi, my favorite. It's cauliflower and potatoes. It's super spicy, and so we got that, and then we on Christmas Day, I think it was Christmas. I'm losing track. It was super, super, super rainy, but we went out and hung these lights out in my woodshed. We did that, and then I sent you the picture right after we got done hanging lights in the pouring rain.
Hmm.
And I had a fire. I was trying to keep the fire going. It's getting wet, right? And then the sun came out in this gorgeous rainbow, and then it became a double rainbow. So, and it was where you didn't see just one side, it was the full rainbow, like two of them. So that was really pretty. So we did that. And then Christmas night, Zach's friend Hudson came over, and he's just an amazing, amazing guitar player and musician. So they were playing for a while. And then Zach and I just worked on a nutcracker puzzle, and Huddy basically serenaded us. So that was it. It was nice. It was chill,
Nice.
but there was not a lot of food happening. So
Yeah, that
we
sounds
got to
good.
get takeout from the Indian restaurant to get that covered.
Anyway,
You know, we
kind
talk
of,
about reasonable foods at reasonable times. We talk about that a lot. And if you
yeah.
think about holidays and there being a food focus and whatever, it's like that's a reasonable thing. But if you're
Hmm.
going to be like planning ahead what you can or can't eat during the holidays, or going, once you've done it, going back and going, oh my God, I did this and I ate
Mm.
this and I ate that. Now I have to go New Year's, go on this plan and join
Yeah,
the gym and go on this healthy diet and all that. That's where it gets real obsessive and real compulsive, right? It's like reasonable. There's food all over. People want to serve you. They want, this is how a lot of the, grandmas and stuff are, think they're showing you the love is like taking care of you and whatever. That's all reasonable. Eat what grandma wants to feed you, and then like, but you don't think about it ahead of time. You don't
mm,
think about it after the fact. That's reasonable behavior. What's
yeah,
unreasonable is obsessing about it and dieting over it and all that kind of crap that follows. It's a lot to come up against.
yeah. My grandma was talking to us all about how pleased she was for her cousin because her cousin's lost like 10 stones. I can't be bothered to work out what family relation he is to me. I know we're related, but yeah, basically my grandma's cousin. And he's lost a lot of weight. I don't know how much that is in kilograms or pounds. I think 10 stones is probably about 140 kilograms, so quite a lot of weight, but he was like morbidly obese.
Yeah.
And he did that through a gastric bypass, is it called? Where you get the
Yes.
the band right, and there's no
Oh, you
point
got the
really.
band. There's gastric bypass where they actually cut, and then there's the lap band which they put on, and they can take it off. It's like
Okay,
reversible. So
I
sorry,
think
go ahead.
I think it was both because I asked my grandma about it, and she was saying how like they literally cut some fat off him, but then they also put this like band in place so he couldn't eat so much. So I think both. I don't know if that would make sense. I don't really know much about it. But the main thing I was thinking is like, obviously I kind of was like, yeah, that's great that he's managed to do that, but at the same time, I'm thinking, well, addiction takes place in the brain. Like people get morbidly obese through their thought patterns, which all happens in the brain. And with any
Right.
addiction, porn addiction, food addiction, whatever it is, the addiction, the problem, the root of it all lives in the brain, and the symptoms take place in the body or in maybe the spirit, if you
Yeah.
want to call it that, or the symptoms take place in terms of how you feel or whatever that is really. But it's the root of it is compulsive desire. It's thinking in a certain way and then acting in a certain way, having those addictive
Yeah.
neural pathways. That's what it comes down to. So unless we're changing those, we're not really ever going to make any real progress or change something.
Yeah, and see, the gastric bypass, I've worked with many people that have had this gastric bypass where they're trying to make it so they can't overeat, right? But
Mm,
they can. They're just going to get extremely sick if they do it once they've shrunk their stomach down to a golf ball. And there's
mm,
so many problems with it. But the thing is the emotional devastation that when they do this extreme surgery, which the recovery is horrible, the long lasting effects, they can't absorb vitamins and minerals, and so they have to like deal with that for the rest of their lives. And I mean, oh, just the stories I've heard from people that have had it, but then they go, oh fuck, wait, it's coming from my brain.
mm.
Right? And now they've done this extreme thing, and then they're left with the compulsive desire in their brain. And I'm telling you, the emotional devastation is it's real. And yeah, so but there's more and more and more and more gastric bypass now, and people even try to gain weight to qualify. Because you have to be a certain percentage overweight or
Mm.
whatever in order to qualify for the
Right.
surgery.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
so they
crazy.
try to gain weight, and it's like if you can't deal with your compulsive desire to, you know, overeat
Mm.
before the surgery, your stomach has really nothing to do with it. It's a passive participant in the whole process. It would be like telling an IV drug user, let's just, let's do something to your veins, and that's going to solve your problem. It's like
To be
you live
honest, it's not actually that different really to just like blocking social media or blocking porn sites. It's
100%.
very, very similar because essentially that compulsive desire to look at pornography, that all happens in the brain. So if you just remove the possibility of doing those things, you're going to end up feeling deprived and then finding a way to look at those things. You know, you'll go down some dark alley or some weird route to actually engage in your compulsive behavior. I mean, I told myself about 3 years ago, you know, I'm not going to look at porn again. I'm not going to go on a porn site. So I managed to actually not go on a porn site. Next thing you know, I spent 2 years in a porn addiction looking at the most depraved stuff I could possibly find on Instagram. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
work. You know, you got to
Yeah.
attack that compulsive desire. You got to change those thought patterns. So that's why I
Yeah.
think it's useful to sometimes talk about these other addictions like food addiction, because it can kind of help you understand it on like a deeper level and kind of realize like, yeah, like most of the things you've tried so far, they're not working for a reason. It's because the addiction's happening in the brain. We got to change those thought patterns and deal with that compulsive desire correctly. Just another thing I want to put out there is like, you know, my grandma's cousin and like my grandma and all these people who at Christmas we're kind of talking about how amazing this is, that he's lost all this weight. Like I don't want to hate on them because they're talking from a place of love and happiness and that they're proud of him. And I genuinely do think that's good if you know that actually does end up working for him. You never know. But from my perspective, I probably don't think it is going to work. And
How long's it been?
it's been 7 months apparently.
Yeah, they say it's about usually the suffering from the surgery goes on for a couple years, and then the stomach is able to just stretch back out. So it's usually sometimes, and from being so sick, there's weight loss as well.
But yeah, what
Yeah.
I was gonna say is that essentially, like, it's not their fault. Like, it's not my family's fault that they're kind of talking rubbish about food, or that they're offering me food all the time, or that they're trying to get me to like eat more food, or any of this stuff. Like, and obviously they can do that, and I can deal with that. That's not a problem for me at all, because I know how to say no. That's simple and easy. And it's not their fault that like they've got all these thought patterns because the rest of the world is basically perpetuating the same ideas. Like there's very, very few people who are really kind of actually being okay with the discomfort of going through withdrawal and wanting to actually take an approach which is different to like 99.99% of people. But breaking out of conformity is difficult, but you can only really break out of conformity once you face the reality of conformity and you see that, wait, hang on, what I'm doing and what everyone else around me seems to be doing, yeah, that's not working. Like people aren't happy, you know, and I think that for
Yeah.
me is what's really helped me kind of just like embrace this method and go, you know what? I'm willing to try something totally different because I tried for 10 years everything else to quit porn. Didn't work. Let me try something else. And now this actually does work for me. So I
Yeah.
think you
Yeah.
kind of
For other
gotta,
addictions.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
when you see everyone else and you realize, wait, they're not doing too well with this thing I want to do. That's when you go, wait, maybe I should try something completely different out, and then you learn a method like this, I suppose.